So welcome to the DEX223 margin trading showcase. In this video, I will explain the concept of margin trading and why it is important for our project. And we will discuss a little bit the difficulties of the implementation and why other decentralized exchanges are struggling with this feature and our methods of solving this, as well as I will showcase some of the templates of our interface and explain the workflow for users and for borrowing the funds and making the trades. So let's start by discussing the basics of trades. Here you can see spot trading and margin trading tables. There are basically two types of trading in crypto: the spot trading and the margin trading. Spot trading is buying assets with your own funds, and after you bought them, you actually own them, and no matter the price change, you will still hold those tokens. They are yours. And margin trading is always trading with borrowed funds. So in the left column here, we are you can see the spot trading. For example, if you had $5,000, you can buy some token. In this example, you are buying token A at one token A per $1 price, and you will hold 5,000 of token A after this operation if you buy it through the spot trade. In case of margin trading, you still hold your $5,000, and you can use it to borrow some extra funds. In this case, you are borrowing $10,000, and you can buy up to 15 token A at the same price. In this case, the price changes, and it can grow or go down. And in case of spot trading, if the price of token A will go down 2 times and token A will be at $0.5, you will still hold this 5,000 of token A, but their price is now 0.5, and this gives us $2,500. If the price will double, then you still hold your 5,000 of token A. Their price is $2 each, and now you have $10,000. In case of margin trading, with the same price changes, if the price has grown, you will hold your 15K token A, each costs $2, it's 30K, but you borrowed these $10,000 and they belong to the lender, and you will have to return them if you want to close your position. But in case of the price decrease, there is such thing as liquidation. There is some risk that at some point, if the trade goes in the opposite direction of what you expected, you will not be able to pay the loan back. At this time, all the funds that you bought with the borrowed funds and your collateral, your own funds, are forcefully taken from you and sold on the market, and whatever is left is delivered to the lender. In our case, at a price of 0.66, your total position will be liquidated, so you will lose everything, and whatever is the result of this sell operation will be delivered to the lender, and you will be left with nothing. So you basically have no tokens, you have no money, you are liquidated. So if the trade goes well for you, in case of margin trading, you can close it. You will pay the loan back. You pay $10,000 because you borrowed it. In optimal conditions, you are also paying the interest. You are not borrowing the funds just for free. You are paying the interest, but in this example, we don't have it accounted. So you are just returning the amount of loan, and whatever is left is actually your funds. So after paying the loan, you will be left with $20,000. As you can see, the margin trading offers higher risks and higher rewards compared to spot trading. And this is its first advantage. There is second thing which is important for us, is that margin trading allows traders to earn profits on the bearish market. Markets in crypto and in general tend to develop in cycles. There are phases when most of the assets are increasing in price, and phases where most of the assets go down at the same time, and there will be very few opportunities to make profits with spot trading, because with spot trading you can just buy some sort of asset and wait for its price to increase. So if you know that Bitcoin will grow, you are buying Bitcoin, and when its price increases, you make profits. If you know that the Bitcoin will go down, you can sell your Bitcoins if you hold some, you can hold USDT, but even if you know that the Bitcoin will go down and you are absolutely sure, and it actually happens, there is nothing you can do about it. You can just sit there with dollars or USDT and wait for it to reach the bottom, buy it at the bottom, and wait for it to go up. With margin trading, you can actually borrow Bitcoins and sell them. And at the time when it will be the time to return the loan, you will have to return Bitcoins at a lower price. So you can actually make profits on a bearish market. If you know that Bitcoin will go down, you can sell your Bitcoins if you have some. You can use the dollars that you got from this operation to borrow Bitcoins. You wait some time, it's time to pay the loan, you buy Bitcoins with dollars, and you pay them back. The difference is your profit. So this allows us to enable traders to earn profits on the downwards markets. Here are three main problems of the margin trading implementation in decentralized exchanges and in smart contract-based exchanges in general. So the first problem of decentralized exchanges is the liquidation, and liquidation is a computation-intensive and time-sensitive operation. Liquidation is a measure which is liquidation is an operation which is executed when there is a risk that you will not be able to pay back the loan, and if the price reaches some threshold, or the price of the asset that you are trading, all the assets of your position are taken and forcefully sold on the market. You are left with nothing, and the lender is paid with the funds that were received during this operation. The problem with liquidation for decentralized exchanges is that it's quite a complex thing. So exchanges like Bybit or BitMEX that specialize on margin trading, they have a complicated liquidation engine. The thing runs continuously, and it executes liquidations automatically. But even those centralized exchanges that have quite a huge computation power, they struggle with it sometimes, and the liquidations are far from guaranteed to be executed properly, and there were some cases of improperly executed liquidations where people actually suffered some financial damage as a result of this. And in decentralized exchange, it is even more of a problem, because smart contracts are very limited and they can't execute that much of operations. And even if the performance of Ethereum virtual machine will be increased by 10,000 times, it will not be possible to implement such thing in smart contracts. It is just absolutely outside of the smart contracts capabilities. The second problem is the problem of price sources. So these exchanges like Bybit and BitMEX, they can use their own markets as a price source, and they can rely on some external resources that provide them with prices for the assets that they are allowing their users to trade on their platforms. But in case of smart contracts, the smart contract is isolated in its blockchain, and it doesn't know anything about the outside world. The smart contract cannot just go to some web page and request some data there and observe it. So the smart contract can only read data from another smart contract. And there need to be some reliable price source, which we can use for the liquidations. And the third and one of the main problems of smart contracts in general, there is no automatization in smart contracts. So a smart contract cannot execute any operation on its own automatically. There always need to be a caller who will trigger the smart contract, and a smart contract can only respond to actions called by humans. As a result, a smart contract can just verify some conditions and answer like yes or no to some sort of request, and trigger some action when it is called, on or refuse to trigger this action if the conditions are not met. But as I said in the point 1, the liquidation is a time-sensitive operation. And all the risks of not executing the liquidation properly are placed on the lender. So if the lender provided you with some sort of money for your position to trade, if it is time to liquidate your position and it will not be liquidated on time, then the price can decline even more than what is expected to be used for liquidation. And the amount of funds that will be paid back to the lender will be less than what he provided you as a loan. So it is not possible to delay the execution of liquidation. It is very important so that it will be executed in proper time frame. In DEX223, we are addressing these problems in a quite specific way that other exchanges haven't tried before. This has some advantages and disadvantages, obviously, and we have two main strategies. So the first one is that there is an assumption that our smart contracts will not implement the liquidation engine in their code because it is not possible. And we assume that there will be an off-chain provider of liquidation. There will be some network of bots or some sort of organization that will run these services for us. So we are actually creating a system of incentives for outside contributors to call liquidations on our positions on our platform in exchange for some financial gain. And when they will call this, our smart contracts will just verify if this is a proper call or not. And this is something that smart contracts can actually do. And the second assumption that we are making is that we are placing all the risks on the lenders. We actually give lenders more control over their funds and over operations that borrowers can do with their funds than any other exchange. So basically, if you are providing the funds for some centralized platforms, normally you don't care about what the borrower is doing with your funds, but in our platform, the lender will be able to configure some restrictions. Basically, all the restrictions that are implemented on the platform are configurable by the lender. So the lender can determine the interest, what type of collateral is accepted, the time frame, the conditions of liquidation execution, the financial gains that the executor of the liquidation will receive, and also what types of trading operations are allowed for the borrower. And here I would like to showcase some of the UI templates that we already have and explain the further workflow. Here we have a template for lending order. I will say that in order to this system to function properly, we need two types of participants in the margin trading of DEX223, the lenders who are willing to provide the funds for the borrowers in exchange for interest, and the borrowers who actually borrow the funds and make some trades with them. And basically, the system is built in a way where lenders are creating the lending orders. They put the funds there, and they specify the conditions under which these funds can be borrowed and used for trading. They set these restrictions that I mentioned earlier. And after that, the borrowers will borrow funds from lending orders. After borrowing the funds from a lending order, these funds will go to the position balance. Position balance is the balance on the smart contract. The funds will never leave the smart contract, and the borrower will not be able to access them and receive them in his or her wallet. Position balance is just a record in the smart contract. But after borrowing the funds, those funds will go to the borrower's balance in this smart contract, and he will form a position. From this position, the borrower will be able to execute trading operations, and the smart contract will actually execute these operations on behalf of the borrower. And whatever is received as the result of these operations will be delivered to the same position. And this way, position will accumulate all these assets. There will be some restrictions on what assets can be traded and cannot be traded. But at any point of time, the value of this position must be greater than some sort of liquidation border. And if the total value of all the assets stored in a position will decline enough, the liquidation can be called. So here we can see a new lending order template. It will be used to create new lending orders by the lenders. Here, the lender will specify the amount of funds that he is going to provide. He can choose the asset. He can choose the order type and specify the duration of each position that can be created. Currently, it is displayed in seconds, but normally people operate with days, and the interest rate for this period of time. Let's scroll to the next page. This is also the lending order creation menu. It's actually a three-step process. Here, the lender will be able to determine the leverage for the borrower. And it is important to note that this is not actually the leverage that the borrower will use. This is the upper bound for the leverage, which is allowed. And leverage actually is the ratio between the amount of collateral and the amount of funds that will become tradable after the borrower took funds from the lending order. Here you can see accepted collaterals. The lender will specify the tokens that he can accept as collateral, and the borrower can only deposit collateral in these exact tokens. Here you can see that this is a list of tokens which are allowed for trading. There is quite a huge list. And it is important to note here that adding every new token to this list or this list is a costly operation. And it increases the gas fee that you are going to pay when you will be creating this order after you complete all these menus. And here comes listing smart contracts. We have listing smart contracts for DEX223, and this is quite a new idea. I didn't see in other exchanges implementing listing contracts, but in our case, this will allow us to only specify the address once. So if you want to accept any tokens listed in a particular contract, you can just list this contract address here or here instead of providing 2,000 of tokens manually and paying gas for listing them all. You can just tick the listing contracts here. Here will be a similar option. It is not currently implemented in the UI template, but it will be in the production version. So this will save a lot of gas. And this is our advantage. And another reason for supporting the listing contracts in our exchange. And here is the minimum borrowing amount. It is important to note that liquidation is a costly operation. It will cost gas fees, and it is not possible to borrow $1 and trade with it because the amount of interest will not be enough to justify the liquidation operation. So there will be a lower bound on the amount of funds that can be borrowed from the order. And here you can see it here. This amount of funds is also determined by the lender. And here is the final step of the lending order creation. Here you can see the liquidation parameters. The lender can specify who can execute the liquidation. So in case the lender doesn't want anyone to receive the liquidation fee, he can execute liquidations himself, or he can sign some sort of contract with some organization if they will agree to provide the services on some specific rules, and they will require the addresses to be whitelisted here. But in the beginning, I think that everyone will be allowed to liquidate, and here is some option which allows everyone to liquidate the position, and whoever calls the liquidation will receive the fee. The fee is specified here and here. There are two types of fees. One goes to the liquidation executor. So we expect that there will be a sort of bot, and we will run liquidations ourselves for the initial period of time. And this amount of funds, also determined by the lender, will go to the liquidation executor. And here is a fee which is designed to compensate the lender in case of the liquidation not being executed on time. There are some additional limitations on smart contracts because we don't know in which order transactions will be executed in a block, and it can happen that the liquidation transaction will go to the block after transactions that change the price before it is added. So the price can be different from what we expected, and if there was some sort of slippage during the execution of liquidation transaction, or the price change that was not expected, the lender can request a specific collateral that will be only used to pay the difference in case of the improper liquidation. It is important to note that if there is no liquidation, so if borrower took the funds and executed good trades, made some profit and closed his position, those fees will be returned to the borrower's balance and nothing will be subtracted. So this is only executed in case of a liquidation. There are two important parameters here, the currency limit and the liquidation price source. The liquidation price source is just a smart contract. It cannot be some sort of provider of the price like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. As I already said, smart contracts can only read data from other smart contracts, but we can aggregate this data and we can execute liquidations based on the price change on different platforms so that it will solve the problem of market manipulations. And in case there will be not enough liquidity in our market, it will prevent the system from being highly manipulative. And there is some sort of order currency limit. This is a technical limitation because if you borrowed, for example, USDT, and you bought a lot of tokens with it, in case of liquidation, all of these tokens have to be sold. And every sell operation is a swap operation, and it costs gas. So if you have 100 tokens, it will cost 100 swap operations. And the amount of gas that will be paid can be quite huge. And at some point, it can exceed the block gas limit, and it will make this operation non-executable. So if you will have that much tokens, nobody will be able to execute it. So in order to prevent this, we have order currency limit. I think that this value is quite high, so it is possible to execute liquidation of a position where up to 30 tokens are held, but we recommend to set this value to something like 10 or 5, just to be sure. And we give a full control to the lender, so they can specify the amount of tokens that the borrower can hold. Actually, I did some margin trading myself, and when I was executing some operations on Bitfinex, I don't remember holding more than 4 active positions at the same time. So this should be quite a reasonable amount. And if you are not trading like a fund, you will be fine. Let's scroll to the next page. And this is how borrowing will look like. After the lending order is created, the lending order will go to the smart contract, the funds will be stored there, and all the active orders will be available to everyone. Everyone will be able to borrow funds from there, and the users on our exchange will be able to observe all the active orders in this menu on the borrow mark. Here you can see all the active orders. In the left column, there is the amount which is currently held in the order and its total balance. So in case of this first order, there were 3,000 of Aave and 2,000 were actually borrowed, and 1 is left, you can still borrow. Here is the interest rate, the leverage. It's important to note that this is just a maximum leverage. This is the upper bound, and the actual leverage is determined by the amount of collateral. But the higher the leverage, the higher the risk of liquidation. So if you will borrow the funds from this order, you can have as high as 10x leverage, but you can have it lower. In theory, you can have just 1x if you just trade with your own funds. So if you borrow 1,000 of these tokens and you deposit 20 millions of your own one, it's actually you are trading with mostly your own funds, and the leverage is close to 1x. And if you borrow 1,000 and use another 1,000 as a collateral, the leverage will be 2x, because there are 1,000 of your tokens, but you are trading with 2,000. 1 of your and 1 is borrowed. Here is the currency limit. This is the limit of the amount of tokens that your position will be able to hold at the same time. So after you will borrow these tokens from this position, from this order, you will be able to buy another 5 tokens. Actually, the first one is borrowed, and another 5 will be available. Here you can see what you can use as a collateral. Here you can see what you can buy with it. In this case, this two assets, but in a real scenario, there will be much more tradable tokens than collateral tokens, obviously. Period of time, this is the maximum period of time. If you are the borrower, then you determine when to close your position. If you are satisfied with the outcomes, for example, you borrowed some USDT, you bought some Ethereum price increased, and you decided that it will go down. There is no need to wait. You can just close your position, take your profits, pay back your loan, and you are done. The lender will get his funds back. He will get his interest back for the duration of time when the funds were borrowed. So if you borrowed funds from here you can see the maximum period of 40 days, but you only held the funds for 20 days, you can close it and you will pay the interest for 20 days. And here is the borrow action. You click it, you proceed to the next menu. Here you can see the, scroll please to the next page. Yes. Here you can see the lending order details. This is just a summary of the order. You can click it from the previous menu and you will be able to read more about all these type of numbers, what they do, what can happen and what cannot happen. So you can see a full list of assets here. It will be quite huge, as I expect, if you are allowing your borrowers to trade from assets listed in some sort of smart contract, but it's up to lenders to determine which assets are tradable. Here is a list of collateral tokens, and that's it. So when you click the borrow button from the previous menu or from this menu, you proceed to the borrowing. Okay, so here is the borrowing. Here you are able to specify the amount of funds that you are going to borrow. You can partially borrow funds, but it cannot be less than a minimum determined by the lender. As I said earlier, it is related to the gas fees of executing some actions with your position after the funds are borrowed. So you can borrow less than some certain minimum. And here you can enter the collateral, choose the token. You can only pay it in a collateral token which is accepted by the lender, and you can choose the token standard. Here, the leverage is automatically calculated. This is a ratio between the amount of funds that you pay as a collateral and the amount of funds that you borrow. And here is the liquidation fee. It will only be paid to the liquidator and to the lender in case your position is liquidated. If your position is not liquidated, it will be returned to your wallet after the position is closed. Here you can see the summary and the list of tokens that you will be able to trade with these borrowed funds and your funds. So once your collateral funds are in the position balance, you cannot withdraw it without closing a position and paying the interest, obviously. And you will not be able to trade with these funds anything other than these allowed assets, while your funds are used as a collateral in a position. Let's scroll down here. Okay, so here is the lending orders menu. This is how it will look for the lender. So the lender created some sort of order. Here you can see the order on the top, and there are two positions. So two different users, or maybe the same user did it two times, took funds from this order. Here is the first position, and here is the second one. In the first position, you can see the balance and the expected balance. The balance is a total amount of USDT that we would receive if we will sell all of these tokens right now. And this amount must be greater than this amount. Expected balance. The expected balance is the amount of funds that we actually borrowed from the lending order and the interest that we expect to have at this exact moment. And how is it calculated? So this order is 15% interest rate, and currently position is 37% fulfilled. So the 37% of its duration already passed, and we expect to have 37% of this interest rate on top of the borrowed amount. So it's 1,055 USDT. 55 is 37% of 15%. It's actually 5.5% of interest on top of 1,000 USDT that we borrowed. And if the actual balance, the total balance, will decrease enough and it will reach 1,055 USDT, this position will be subject to liquidation and it can be liquidated. But in this case, it's fine. And if the position cannot be liquidated, then it is allowed to last for its duration, determined by this ending date. And during this time, the lender can do anything with the position if it cannot be liquidated, and the borrower can do whatever he wants with the funds, but he cannot withdraw it from the smart contract. He can make trades, he cannot exceed this assets allowed amount, and he cannot buy any tokens which are not allowed by the lender in this order. Here you can see the second position. It's actually the same position as this one, but it has a full completion date. And as you can see, it already achieved its 100% completion. And we expect to have a full amount of interest on its balance at this time. So in this case, if the position is fulfilled, the lender can close it. If the lender will close the position, all these assets are going to be sold on the market, and this amount of expected balance will be returned to the balance of the lending order, and whatever is left will be delivered to the borrower's balance. In this case of this position, we can see that the borrower actually made some profit because he had only 200 USDT, and if you subtract 1,150 USDT from 1,500, it will be more than 200 USDT. So the borrower can also close position at any time, as I said earlier, and it is much better if the borrower will close this position because the borrower actually owns these tokens. And if the lender will forcefully close this position after its completion date, then all these tokens are sold. We are executing 5 swap operations in this case, or we would execute 12 in this case if we needed to close this position. But in case of closing position by the borrower only needs to pay the expected balance. And in case of paying it, he can keep the rest of the tokens. He can sell them or he can keep them because it's his tokens. And we don't care about what he is doing. And we can avoid executing that much swap operations. So for us and for the lender, it's better if the borrower will close this position on his own. What happens to the funds after the position is closed? The funds from the position balance can go back to the lending order balance. As you can see, there are a few options which can be done with the order by the owner of the order, by the lender. After closing the position, the funds will go to the order balance and they will become immediately available for borrowing once again. If we don't want this to happen, we can close this position. It can only be done by the owner of the order. He can close the order, and in this case, the order will remain in closed state. It will be still here. It will not affect any positions, but after position is completed, the funds will be returned to the order balance, and they will not be available for borrowing. And the lender can deposit new funds. They will go to this balance. They will become available for trading and for borrowing. He can withdraw funds. So if there is 1,000 available, or if some position will be closed and there will be 2,500 available, he can just withdraw it, and the funds will go to his wallet. They will not be on the order balance anymore, and nobody will be able to borrow them, obviously. And the lender can edit the order. It will not affect any positions, but if someone will be borrowing the funds afterwards, they will have different rules. Actually, the lender can modify the rules of fees, the deadlines, the interest rate, and all these values. It will allow him to be more flexible with his orders, and instead of creating a new one, he can just recycle the old ones, because we are trying to save some gas on these operations. They are quite costly. And let's scroll down to the position. Here we are. Here you can see the position details. You will be able to get some tooltips explaining how this will work. It is quite important for us to make sure that everyone who is interacting with the exchange understands what exactly happens and what will happen if they do some action. And here you will be able to find transaction history. So for any position, we will keep a transaction history, not actually we, but it will be stored on the blockchain, and we will represent them in this way. So everyone will be able to observe what kind of operations were performed on each position at any time. And one side note regarding the liquidation. Here is a liquidation button on this page, and here was a liquidation button on the lending order page, but the liquidation can only be called on positions that satisfy liquidation requirements. So their total balance is less than the expected balance at the current time. And honestly, we don't expect anyone to call liquidations like this manually. We expect it to be called directly to the smart contract by some sort of liquidation execution bots, but we have this as a backup option, so that if the lender can see that liquidation can be executed in a position, he can do it manually. And everyone else can do it manually as well, if this is allowed by the lender. Let's scroll down. And here is the margin swap menu. Now it's time to explain how the trading is done, and there are some specifics in our implementation, because in our case, we allow trading from a specific position. If you have borrowed funds from 3 different orders, they can have 3 different deadlines, 3 different types of allowed currencies, and all of this needs to be accounted. You can just mix all these funds and make one trade. Unfortunately, it's not possible. It may not be as convenient as you can do it on some centralized exchanges, but this is the safest option available for us, and it is also technically viable. So there will be a special swap page for the margin swaps where you will have to select position from which you are going to trade. So in this menu, you will be able to select position. You will be able to select tokens that are currently on the selected positions balance. So if you have USDT, you will be able to trade with USDT. But if you don't have any other assets, you cannot select them here. It will work differently from the normal swap. You will not be able to select any assets from your wallet balance. So if you have some tokens on your wallet, you will not be able to trade them here because they are not on your position. You will not be able to deposit them as a collateral if they are not accepted, and if they are not on the position balance, you will not be able to engage them in margin swap. So we are just separating these two features, the normal swap and the margin one, and in the receive select menu, you will be able to select a token which is supported by the position that you are currently trading from. This will be verified, and you will be able to select only these tokens. Obviously, you can select the token standard here, but you are not trading from your wallet balance. You are trading from the smart contracts balance. There is your position in a smart contract. There will be a margin trading smart contract, and all the orders and positions and the assets stored in these orders and positions will be on the balance of the smart contract. And you just tell the smart contract to execute some sort of swap from your position on your behalf, and the smart contract is doing this. So the smart contract executes all these operations. You are just telling the smart contract what to do. And you can select token standard just to save your gas. In case there are enough tokens of the selected token standard on the smart contracts balance, because someone else deposited them, it can be cheaper for you. So in future releases, we will maybe replace the selection of the standard with automated detection of the cheapest option. But for now, you can select the standard and it doesn't affect anything. You don't pay these tokens. You don't receive these tokens. They are on the smart contract balance. It just determines how much gas you need to pay, because tokens are on the contract balance, but you pay for gas when you execute this swap message. So one side note regarding the margin swap, we have redesigned the page in a purple color scheme so that to avoid people getting confused and to avoid confusing margin swap with normal swap, because it is very important to understand that this swap is executed from the balance of the smart contract, and the normal swap is executed from the balance of your own wallet. So you will be able to access this menu even if you don't have any active positions, but you need to clearly understand where you are currently in order to avoid situations where the users don't understand where these assets go, to the balance of their wallet or to the margin trading smart contract. And that's why we decided to develop it in a separate page. Initially, we had the same features implemented in the normal swap, but we decided to make a separate page, make it look differently from the main one. And here you can see the results. I will also showcase the UI templates and explain it in a written form in our monthly report. So thank you for your attention. I hope that we covered most of the features and technical details of DEX223 margin trading implementation in this video. If you have any questions, you can ask them in our Telegram channel. All the questions are always welcome, and I will go through them and answer when I have free time. So I think that's it.